there's like some interesting hard data around this, especially in the work. So the NIH said people who connect with their core values are 30% happier. Interestingly, the Burnett Value Center did a thing that's saying leaders who both talk about values but live by them, some say them, are trusted 3 times more by their employees, and people who connect the values to their work are 52% like happier at work. I mean, there's real data behind this, but this can't be I'm saying it but not doing it. There's probably, I don't know what the stat is, but they probably trust them 80% less if they say it and not do it. But people want to feel like what they care about, connects to what they're doing.
An entrepreneur straight out of New York City, Michael Chernow. What's cracking?
Core values. Holy smokes, how many times do you hear core values?
Yeah.
Right? Like core values are, in some cases, the absolute most important thing, but in more cases, meaningless, right?
I'm 100% with you. Yeah.
So what are your core values?
My core values, and again, in terms of, we'll talk about how I define like a helpful core value or not, but my dominant core value is find a better way and share it. That's literally why I'm here. Health and vitality, self-reliance, which has always been sort of something for me, respectful authenticity, and long-term orientation. So very different than I think people and companies, as you said, often talked about, I think very useless in most cases, because companies pick these one-word platitudes like integrity and respect and whatever, and
on the wall.
And people, if I ask a room, I typically have asked rooms of. My problem is I've tried to survey my audience on this, and they're too skewed in not the right direction. So if you take a blank room and you're like, how many people like have any sense of their core values or spend some time thinking about it? It'd be like 60% of the room had not, right? Then maybe like 35 people like, yeah, I've thought about core values. I kind of maybe know some of my values, or I've thought about it. And like 1 to 2 people in the room could rattle off a list, like I said. And I think they're generally in a different place, sort of, mentally, and what they're, and very specific about what they're doing. So when you say, there's a lot of people like, core values, or like, and I'm like, okay, well, what are they? Like family, integrity, like we could, I mean, family doesn't work in my in my list. The book and the framework behind it is around actionable core values. And actionable meaning the number one most important thing is, could you make a decision based on it? And could you use it as a decision-making rubric, right? And the book is the big 3 that the character's going through, which is your job or vocation, your partner, and the community or communities that you choose. And if you don't make those, and you get those wrong on core values, I think they have a very low chance of success.
In that trifecta, job or vocation, significant other, community, is there, like, in your opinion, from diving deep into this sort of work, is there a hierarchy amongst those 3 for you? Like, do you believe that there's some sort of a succession there, or do you?
It's interesting. It's a good question. I think communities change, right? Ideally, a lot of people don't want the partner to change once they find the right one. No, I think they're kind of like moons that like orbit, or it's like a gravitational pull. I think at different times they're probably pulling in different directions. I can tell you that probably if you're in a job that really goes against your values and it drains you, and you come home and you're picking fights with people, like it's probably gonna
like
deteriorate your community, deteriorate your relationship. So they probably like rotate around each other. But that would be my answer. I don't think there's. I mean, obviously, again, you'd say in a perfect ideal world, like your partner, but these days some people are way into life by the time they've picked their partner, and 50% of people have, divorce rate in the US. So that's not like a singular constant for most people.
I mean, I've founded now 3 companies.
Yeah.
I do have my own personal core values that I've gone through a process and kind of figured those out.
You're in that too.
What?
You're in that too, in the room of 100.
And I have I do have them written at the bottom of my whiteboard in my office. They're just there. But I think what would be great is to understand how to apply these core values. I've never asked somebody their core values, and each one was a sentence, which I think is a very, very
phrase.
Or a phrase, like, or phrase, right? But a very, very different way of thinking about that, because really what I think about when I think about core values is not for every decision, right? Like your intuition is going to typically guide you.
If you tried to, you'd exhaust your
large-scale decision making needs to get dropped into a core value filter bucket, 100%, right? And if it doesn't get through, like if there's one or two that are catching that decision, it's kind of like a hard no, right? Like,
as long as you can identify that. Most people, and this is where I was, and this how I got down this whole process, which is a long story, but I came to realize I was very value-oriented, coming out of a leadership training where I thought we were going to go learn about how to manage people and tactics and otherwise. It was like a big mirror in our face for 2 days. Like, who the hell are you? What do you value? I'm like, okay, this is really important. But then they didn't tell us how.
Was this a voluntary thing that you paid for to be a part of?
Yeah, it was a part of Entrepreneurs Organization. It was a pretty exclusive leadership training that they did for kind of 20 people around the world.
Okay, cool.
So I was like, wow, it's really values oriented, but I can't articulate what they are. And I think that's how most people are. There's awareness of them. We kind of know when a value is being crossed. Like, it's a little kryptonite-y. My best analogy is if you were driving a car through a tunnel and I turned off the lights, what's most likely going to happen is you are going to drift to the right, go past that yellow line that you can't see, hit the wall, smash up the car a little bit. You're going to push back to the middle. You're going to drift to the left. You're going to get through the tunnel. The car's going to look like shit on the other side. Mm-hmm. This is how most people navigate core values in life. Like, ooh, like felt horrible, terrible, but I hit the wall. And the difference is, like, you turn on the light, the yellow lines are, these are my values. Oh, this person is asking me to get involved with a venture with them, and this clearly aligns or violates along these things. We get more into the rubric, but one of the most powerful things I think in my framework and how I define it, what people say, is this concept of the anti-core value. So one of the tests is, because core value violated does not feel good, right? If you tell me one of your values and I make up like a character and I'm like, all right, Michael, like I'm gonna make up a character who's the opposite of that. And like, you're talking to them at a party and like, your face starts getting like tense. Like, someone's talking about gratitude and I'm like, this person's talking about their trust fund and how the world is screwing them over, and the person just gets like uncomfortable, right? So it's an interesting test because it shows that you're on the right path, because your value is being violated and it's deeply uncomfortable.
And it's kind of crazy that there are people like that too.
Oh yeah. Look, there are some values that we've ostensibly would say are good and bad. Like, again, I don't think integrity is a great core value, because I have at least 6 definitions of integrity that have people told me. So I'm like, what do you mean? And this was the conversation with Jamie and Jack in the book. What do you mean by integrity? Because that's the thing behind it. But yeah, when you lock into that, it's very interesting.
So you have recently launched The Compass Within, and I, full transparency, got the book about 2 days ago and have not read the full thing. As soon as I saw you, I stopped you though, because it's like being excited about a book is like not that, it doesn't happen that often, right? Like, I love reading books. Books are great, but like that book, as soon as I cracked it open and it was a story that was telling sort of a nonfiction, that had like a non-fictional backbone, that doesn't really happen a lot, right?
No.
Like
parables, it's rare, and some of the people's favorite books of all time are parables, including my own. I love Patrick Lencioni. I love Bob Burg's The Go-Giver. Even the famous book on operations called The Goal is actually a parable. But they're rare, and publishers don't like them. But I was pretty adamant that I was like, I think if I walked by a book in the store. So the story is, I figured out this formula for myself I actually started training people on it at our company and leadership. I was like, wow, this is like really working. People are like understanding stuff about themselves. They're changing their leadership. They're changing their life. I turned it into a course because I wrote about kind of discovering your core values in my book, Elevate, this notion of spiritual capacity, kind of how do you build that capacity. People be like, this is great. How do I do it? And I'd be like, well, I've got this thing and this course. Like, I don't really have an easy way to answer it. So I was like, I should turn this into a book. But if I go through the bookstore and there's a book on values, like, am I going to pick it up? Like, am I going to read it? I'm not sure it'll be like fun to read. And I'm like, I definitely think I can, show this more with characters. And so you've had an early look. I've had some friends who had an early look. And what's interesting is, the character is just a little bit of a mirror for people. People are like, oh my God, that was like, I resonated with that scene because I'm having that discussion with my spouse, or I've been in that work situation. And it brings up these feelings for people. There's a personal story at the end about one of my biggest regrets with one of my kids where I ignored a sort of core value discord with another family and everything was fine, but I kind of didn't forgive myself for that. I'm sure someone reads that and they have a story that
so I have to where I think that, so totally different genres.
Yeah.
But why I think Seinfeld and Larry David are so brilliant and why I think so many people love those two guys, even if people don't like comedy, they love that. They love Curb Your Enthusiasm and Seinfeld because they are surfacing real life relatable things that in their case are just annoying.
Yeah, the one for me, like I always say, is the one where they go around, Elaine orders the salad, and they all order a really expensive dinner, and then they split it. I'm like, how many times have you been in that situation with a friend, at dinner where you ordered a Coke, and they ordered a tomahawk steak, and they're like, you owe $45, right? Yeah.
Brilliant. Let's split it 4 ways. And you're like, wait a second, I had a fucking bite of it. Yes.
But you're right about that.
So in this, as I started getting into the book, like there were just a number of situations that I was reading that I was like, bing, like totally.
Matt becomes your ex-boss, I'm sure, somewhere.
Oh God, I hate that guy. I hate that guy. Like I know that guy so well, and I think most people who have had a job in some kind of corporate or not even just in general, you have a job where there's a guy that's just kind of like toting around the office or around, in my case, the restaurant, doesn't really know the menu item, but is like testing you on it. And you're like, dude, I know you don't know what this is. I know you don't know it. Let me turn this around on you, I know it. I know you don't know it. Yeah. And so it just, it hits those chords. And so I think that is why, like, I was so excited to see you today because I was so excited. I'm
glad. I'm so happy to hear that because I was like, my goal now for the next 5 years is to help 1 million people figure out their core values. That's sort of my beyond any financial goal or anything. But to do that, I have to get people engaged with the topic, and I felt like this would be a way to get them engaged rather than, hey, you want to learn about core values. But as you said, it's soft, it's misapplied. There's like some interesting hard data around this, especially in the work. So the NIH said people who connect with their core values are 30% happier. Interestingly, the Burnett Value Center did a thing that's saying leaders who both talk about values but live by them, some say them, are trusted 3 times more by their employees, and people who connect the values to their work are 52% like happier at work. I mean, there's real data behind this, but this can't be I'm saying it but not doing it. There's probably, I don't know what the stat is, but they probably trust them 80% less if they say it and not do it. But people want to feel like what they care about, connects to what they're doing.
I'm gonna just go out there and say it because I think most people that think of core values, they do trim them down to one word, and mine are 4 singular words.
We'll fix yours. That's
so I'm down for that, and because I wanna understand your process for helping people try to navigate their way or orienteer that map of discovering the core value, right? Like, how do you do it, right?
Yeah.
I think, and I've said it so many times on this podcast, there's like 6.5 billion people on the planet that just haven't figured out what their purpose is yet.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and that's so sad.
Yeah, and it's like as soon as you said that, this image of like a kid's toy with different shaped blocks and different shaped holes, right? And like everyone, like people are, that's how you help figure out, oh, that's where my piece fits, right? And I think people are floating around, they don't understand this. When you figure this out, when you really figure it out, and I don't know if you've gotten to the Jamie Epiphany chapter yet, and for me it was like, holy shit, like it's a stencil, and I start looking back at my life, and I look back at school, and I look back at this job, and I'm like, oh, freaking makes sense now. Like I shouldn't have done that. I should have done that. Like it and so then really what you should start doing, and what I did was I'm doubling down on these things. I'm walking away from these things. Community is the one.
For you, what was that? Just so, I mean, if you're cool talking about that.
Look, there were relationships I walked away from, and one of the things, not a breakup, but hey, like it's very clear to me that this person or this group doesn't want the same thing that I want. So everyone thinks you have to like break up and Jerry Maguire, like you could just stop applying energy to things and they fade out. How many times do you say, you and your partner, like you meet up with the college roommate you haven't seen, you hate their spouse, and like we should do this again. Like all you have to do is not say that, right? Like no, we don't have to do it again. Like we'll chat, and whatever. So I actually ended up cutting my core values and work in half. I had a lot of policies. So my last book was about based on my TED Talk on how to eliminate 2 weeks notice, and like, hey, we need to just change how people leave companies. That is a direct dotted line to my core value of respectful authenticity. I'm trying to grow this company. We have a great culture, and I'm like, the way people leave and this lying and this 2 week, like this sucks. Like how do we do this better? Like how do we get people to be respectful and tell the truth and authentic? So we built a new program that let people transition and sort of change that. But that became really
so like what did that look like?
It was this concept of open transitions. Like, hey, we think this may not work out, and you think that you can work here for 3 months. Like, start looking for a job. We'll do a transition. We'll help you. Like, let's have these discussions, because most of these things go on well beyond what they needed to. And I ended up doing a TEDx talk about it, and a lot of people have tried this blueprint, and they're like, wow, it works to have a real honest discussion with people and provide them a little safety and not walk them to the door. And we were a service business. The thing that people hate is when an account manager leaves.
The worst.
So, for us to know that person was leaving, but you talk to Michael every week, and so Sarah starts showing up on the call for 6 weeks, and then Michael fades off, and then the client already likes Sarah. The worst thing is like, hey, Michael's not coming this week. Sarah's your new account manager. Like the clients do not like that. So that was a perfect day. We cut our core values in half at work. We leaned in, and at work I was like, look, this is what we are, this is what we aren't, and this is what we're going to do, and this is what I feel comfortable with. And I think it really changes. Look, the thing where I really want organizations to pay attention to this, you can do whatever leadership training you want. You can tell people, hey, this is what a good leader looks like, and this is what they do. But people are going to lead from their values. They are going to do it with knowledge of those values or without knowledge of those values. Right. And those look very different because these are formed from real formative, often childhood experiences, some traumatic experiences that make certain things more important for you. So you can either tell people that this is who you are and whatever. If you join my team, when I manage people, I'd be like, look, I believe in figuring out a better way and trying to do things better. If you're someone who wants to do the same thing and chill and not improve, you will not like working for me. Like straight up, it's not the right fit.
One thing that I do want to say though, and I was kind of like caught on like that just sort of I highlighted in the book is so. When Matthew, his philosophy is basically that when somebody puts in their notice, out the door, like you got no.
Firm culture.
Yeah, it's a firm culture. Yeah. It's just like, but hey, like you let us know that you're leaving. We're not giving you 2 weeks. You're out today. Right. Why? Because once you've kind of made that known, you're not in it to win it, and you're out. You're kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and we're not a 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of company.
Yeah.
Now, I hate that. Like, it just sounds terrible.
Yeah, but you're going to say you understand it.
But is there validity to it, right? Is there validity to someone who is like, is somebody giving you 2 weeks, but they really want to leave right now? Like how? And so I like honestly, you know, I've never ever, if I've hired, I don't know, probably 1,500 people over the course of my career.
In the restaurant world, people quit with 1 minute
notice.
notice.
So, but like, you know, I mean, I've hired 1,500, maybe more, and I've probably fired 500, maybe 1,000. I don't know. But at the end of the day, like in the restaurant business, if somebody gives you your 2 weeks, it's really a roll of the dice, whether they're just like trying to be respectful. Yeah. Because if you were to be like, hey, you know what, like you could make this your last shift if you want to, they would probably, some of them would be like, okay, and others would be like, no, like.
Well, that's their choice. I think I can see how you would draw that conclusion, right? But if you rolled the tape forward a little bit, how's that going to play out in the company? Well, no one is going to discuss they're unhappy. Everyone knows that you will get walked out.
Oh, it's like terrible culture.
Right.
It's terrible culture.
So,
but I think, I guess that the thought that came to me for that was, okay, instead of like cutting people off at the knees when they give you an opportunity to like make some kind of a transition. Think about who you're actually hiring.
Yeah.
And the kind of leadership that they're walking into.
Yeah.
Right? Like that, I think, is the most important piece of the puzzle.
And again, if you're a company, it's just a little bit, what is the culture? Things don't work out. People are unhappy. Do you want people to discuss? People are so worried about employees becoming toxic and stealing stuff and going postal at the end, right? And it's really funny. Someone said to me years ago, they're like, if your employees always as they go out the door are stealing shit and doing stuff and otherwise, there's 2 things going on here. One, you're not hiring really good people, and you should look at that, to what you said. 2, there is something about your culture that is turning them toxic that you may want to take a look into, right?
So I have been sort of coined the culture cowboy at both businesses, right? I really, really care.
Yeah.
I care about how people feel.
Right.
Because I know how people feel is going to project how people perform. Now, I do think that there needs to be boundaries, and I do think that there's got to be a sense of assertiveness in communication. And there's
you're not someone who would want to embarrass someone intentionally, right? And then a lot of people enjoy this parade of embarrassment.
Right, but you know what though? I will tell you, and this was obviously little notches on my belt as I was going. Like I remember so clearly, I had a manager in, I think it was the first year of Seymour's in my second restaurant. And, we were crushing it. We opened the doors. I mean, it was insane. We were top restaurant, New York Magazine, New York Rank, whatever it was, #1 restaurant for 9 months straight. It was nuts. And I had a manager in there who I knew had the potential to be great. Yeah. And I would take her and I would have, we didn't do one-on-ones because I always had to have someone there HR-wise, but like we would do a lot of like sort of like mentor-mentee stuff. And finally she was like, you know what, I don't think this is right for me. And she was like, and I want to give you some feedback. And I was like, great. She was like, do me a favor, for the next person, just be way more direct. Tell me exactly what you want. Yeah. Don't care about how I feel. And I was like, ooh, God, man, that really hit me because I do think about what I say before I say it.
And that was also probably something about her values, where she needs in her life for people to be direct. And if I sat down with this woman and I talked to her, I bet you there was someone in her life or a parent who never told her the truth. And this is the reality. This stuff shows up for us in our adult life in the workplace. And I am not a therapist and I don't pretend to be one, but I can tell you the difference is, having done this with so many people, I'm just looking to understand what it was and make sure people realize how it impacts them. We're not going back to talk to your inner child or blame people or any of that stuff, but I can tell you how this shows up in some people. So I've done this work with people who have a core value of trust, right? And people have a core value of trust or a why of trust, build trusting relationships. If you ask them, and I've done this because I've done it enough, hey, Michael, I'm not going to ask you what it is, but did you have a violation of trust in your life? Usually tears rolling down their face, tightened up. Like, look, I don't even know what it is. But just know that this is real for you in your leadership. So trust people as leaders in companies. They have one default way of managing. I trust you or I don't trust you. They have small groups of friends. They sort people. So they are people on their team who were 5 minutes late to the restaurant. They didn't say anything, but they're like, can't trust her. And she's in the penalty box and she gets treated like crap. And I've heard HR managers afterwards, after we dealt with this, be like, and I was saying, oh, that person, that leader, I know how to trust quarterback. They're like, oh, I could never understand. Like each quarter I'm being asked to promote this person and fire this person. And it's just, so that's, if you aren't aware of that, and you're not going to change that. This is an orienting thing for you. And for that person, that trust, that is like, it's a threatening thing. Like this is threatening. You're controlling the steering wheel and you're saying, hey, welcome to my team. Just so you know, trust is really important to me. And when trust is lost, it's really hard to get back. These are the ways that trust is lost. And if you're feeling some distance, there's probably been a loss of trust, right? Totally different way of doing that. Then you don't realize that this is your default orientation. And by the way, the opposite side of that was they hired a vendor that they trusted from a past relationship and didn't verify their work, and they did horrible work that cost the company hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this adults are, I tell a story where like, I knew a lot about these two people and they're arguing about a budget, and they're like really arguing about a budget. And this person's values are include all perspectives, right? Because they
include all perspectives.
Yes, because people either their values come from, when we get into the tactical, 90% of the time it comes from something that was really important in your life that you're doubling down on, or you are running 100% the opposite way and it's something that you didn't have. So the include all perspectives person likes to make sure that everyone is heard and they need to be heard. And this person grew up like dirt poor, and their thing is like, do not waste, right? And so they're in this fight as adults over this budget. And the real issue is like this person thinks this person is wasteful. And that is a like trigger. And I don't like to overuse the word trigger, but that is like a core value violation for them.
Grinds his gears.
And this person thinks that they are not being heard and that this person is not listening to the things that they need.
Nothing to do with the budget.
And I think nothing to do with the budget. I think across our lives and our workplaces, this is showing up. And the people who know it can manage it, right? That person can be like, you know what, this feels like I just need to make it clear that like I'm fine if you don't want to spend that money, but it's important to me that you just like hear me out on this. Like, you know, I'm not. And this is the key thing for leadership and leadership development, because I think this is the missing piece for most people in terms of understanding like what's driving them. Like, so much childhood crap is showing up in the workplace. Like that, I promise you, that woman, someone wasn't direct with her. They lied. There was someone on our team we were doing this with, and their mother was like a conspiracy theorist. And this person, as an adult now, it's all about facts and data. If you do not bring facts and data to her, like and because her mother told her all this shit that wasn't true. And so, but this is how she manages today. And I bet you this woman had someone who did not tell her the truth. And in this case, like it was really important to her to be told the truth, or else it's kind of bringing her back to whatever it was.
You know, it's so interesting that you say that, because in orientation for any restaurant that I've opened, now obviously the first few restaurants were a little bit different because I was really leading the ship. I didn't really know. I mean, I read, the E-Myth Revisited and thought I knew what it meant to be an entrepreneur.
It's a good book. Yeah.
It's a good book, but I didn't know.
Applies to restaurants probably the most. Food services people the most. Baker,
I mean, now having read it a number of times, but prior to opening up a restaurant, I was told of my own business, I was like, someone said, hey, you got to read this book. I read the book and I was like, oh yeah, like I'm going to be able to break away from the technician and be on the owner. Of course I am. And as soon as I was the GM of the first restaurant I opened, right? Yeah. So as I evolved, in orientation, I'm flat out with the team. I'm like, hey, I'm not going to be here all the time. Yeah. I'm the owner of the restaurant. I am going to tell you guys all the things that mean a lot to not only me, but the culture and the success of the business. But I'm not an asshole, so I'm a nice guy. So it's going to be hard for me to continue to remind you. So what's going to happen is either you're going to get a first write-up a second write-up,
Right.
and then you're going to be fired, because that's like I'm telling you right now, I don't want to be. I have a hard time being an asshole. Like I am.
But you're setting values-based boundaries, which is better than rules-based boundaries, right? Because rules are kind of arbitrary, and values like, look, make decisions within our values.
Basically, I'm like, hey, here the writing's on the wall. The rules are given out to everybody. You have them. We talk about them. We discuss them. They're very clear. There's like, it's not like there's no like wiggle room. It's like this is the rules. Like, but we have a great time. So like the rules are there so that everybody succeeds and everybody feels comfortable and supported. But I'm just going to tell you that I'm not the manager or the owner that's going to be on your ass all the time.
Yeah.
So just know that if you get a write-up, chances are it's something that you're doing that is going to get you out the door.
Yeah.
And but like I think that there are so many companies that succeed with terrible culture.
Oh, yeah. Well, companies I didn't believe in any of the company core value stuff. Now, this is different than individuals. Individuals is me and my values. Companies are all the people and what are our shared
But aren't the
connections.
company values a direct reflection of the founder / CEO?
Yes, in a smaller organization, sure. In a Fortune 500 company, not, right?
But don't you think of like there is some remnants of that in a Fortune 500 company?
It'd be great if it carried through 5 generations, but if you have 5 mergers and a whole bunch of stuff, maybe not. I do some work with companies around augmenting or fixing their core values, and a lot of times there's been a merger, there's been a new leadership, so companies have culture. The famous story at the end of the book is that Enron, when it went under, had core values of like integrity, respect, and be kind. And the truth was the values are either the culture is explicit or implicit. So it doesn't matter what you write on the wall. The truth was at Enron, it was like be incredibly risky, like stab people in the back, and
those were the actual
core values. That was what actually rewarded was. Take risk. Just go do crazy stuff.
You will get rewarded.
Be a cowboy was probably one of the core values. So they were saying this, and this is why I never believed in core values from the corporate standpoint. I would work with startups. I'd walk in all these startups. I'd see the same 12 words written on the wall. One of the most awkward stories was I wrote an article on LinkedIn back when LinkedIn was sharing my posts like millions of people, and I had one of these pictures and it was like I'd taken in a company. It was like empathy, respect, and they're like 12, 14 things kind of laid up on the wall. And my whole article was titled "Why Most Company Core Values Aren't Real." Mm-hmm. And I wrote this whole scathing piece around the problem with it. And someone who's not reading carefully looks in the comment, "Where did you take this picture? These are great. These are just like my company's core values." It's like, oh, you may want to read the article because you're posting this with your company name on it and all kinds of stuff on it. So. Yeah, look, I have a puppy, we're training a dog. It's like good girl, bad girl, right? We're all children, like in some ways where culture, it either rewards behaviors or it punishes behaviors, right? And that's sort of eventually, and that's either explicit or implicit. So the great companies are actually aligned between what they think and what they say and what they do. It's not that these things are on the wall. It's we hire with them. You hear about them in our performance reviews. We have awards on them. The core values are, you hear them all the time, or people are talking about, we are not going to make this decision because that's not embracing relationships. My friend Gary Ridge, who ran WD-40, the little spray can oil company for 10 years, actually totally turned the company around, had like a 30% approval rating, and in 10 years he got it to 90%, flipped the culture around, stock went up 10x. He was a culture guy, and he said, which most CEOs could not do, any of our associates or whatever they call them, who makes a decision in service of one or more of our core values at our company is always safe. That's believing in your values. That's screw the 500-page rule book. Make decisions aligned with my values, and you will always be safe.
Okay, let's get tactical. So can you give us? I mean, I probably can't give us the whole spiel, but somebody's listening to this and says, "Okay, I get it. I want to understand what at least begin the process of understanding how do I get to my core values." Sure.
So as they'd see in the book or in the discussion, it starts with these 6 questions. And everyone's always like, what's the 6 questions? They want to take the notes. So I just put at robertglazer.com/6, SIX, Get 6 questions right there. So these 6 questions are behavioral-based questions designed to look at like the parts of your life personally and professionally where you did your best work, were most frustrated, people you really can't stand. What do you want said at your eulogy? They're designed to get all these stories and behaviors out. So you answer these 6 questions. And for people who don't want to do the process, look, there's the book, you can read it. There's the course that goes with the book, which you can get if you buy the book. Like, I get it. Some people don't.
And this is Elevate.
They won't spend the time. No, this is Compass Within.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you read the book, this whole process we're talking about is in the book. But there's a course that goes with it too, because some people like the scaffolding around it. So it just walks you through all of it. So you answer these 6 questions on 6 pieces of paper. And then what you do is you start to, and obviously there's some more stuff around it, but generally, you start to like take some color, marker otherwise, go look for themes across all these 6 things, because you're going to hear different, and you're like, oh, 5 times I kept hearing couldn't make things better, could make things better. You know, people come to me to talk about it better. So you kind of pick a couple colors and you circle up all the themes. And 2 of the questions are negative questions. Again, what can't you stand in other people? Where are you unsuccessful? So you look at, you both look at the negative and then you look at the opposite of that. So what's the opposite of the negative? Because I said before, that violation of something that drives you crazy is usually the inverse of the value, right? Like, I hate selfish people. Well, you know, then something about unselfishness, you know, is your value. So that sort of gets you to themes, and we're doing this at warp speed, right?
But wait, real quick, I just want to touch on something because I think it's important to mention. So you say like, okay, I hate selfish people, but there's been so many people in the therapy world, right? Like, is like, okay, so that the shadow part of that is like, well, the truth is you're probably selfish, right? Like, is that something that you consider in this process, or like if someone proclaims something that they dislike about another person, is it them just like looking in the mirror?
If they did that, it probably wouldn't show up in the other answers and questions, right?
Okay.
And so it wouldn't, like, they're all a little different, but they're designed to produce very similar responses. They're like, because tell me about an actual time when. So I can see that. That's interesting. But I think more often, people could say that, but it does reflect something that really bothers you.
them, right?
Yeah,
like there's no way around that, right? Like,
if someone's self-loathing and self-hating, like that's probably a whole different. They probably aren't doing this work anyway.
Copy that.
So,
right.
So you take the themes, and then you start to validate whether it's the right theme. So the thing about my process, most core value things are just lists of keywords online. Like, that's what I found. I think the core thing that makes this different and gets them into actionable is this process that I call the core validator. And the core validators, you have to take each of these themes through 4 questions. So the first question is, so I look at it and I'm like, okay, I've got like 8 words here, and like this red theme, it seems to be about, I liked biking for myself to school. I liked working on the project by myself. I didn't like when I was relying on a lot of other people. Like, these are the kind of answers that were there. So the first one is, if I'm looking at this theme and I'm looking at some keywords with it, could I make a decision based on it, right? Because this is a decision making. I'm like, oh, well, yeah. So these seem to be very much about things that I can control and reliance. Like, okay, like I can make a decision on that. And then the second one is, does the opposite of it make you uncomfortable, right? So this is the test of the theme, because a lot of people get really clever about their words. Which is the cart before the horse. Like, it doesn't matter if you name it really well and it's the wrong thing. So I can't stand super dependent. Trust fund baby, like, people are like, it drives me nuts. I even joked, telling some of the story, like in my house, like I always say to my daughter and my wife, I'm like, you guys are good looking but terrible lookers. Like, and they're like, I can't find something. Can you I'm like, did you look for it yourself before you asked me to look for it? Right? So just even on a small scale, I'm like, why would you ask me to look for it before you spend 5 minutes looking for it yourself if it's yours? Like, I think I am the guy, like, I will drive myself home from the hospital. I don't see why I would ask someone else to drive me out from the hospital if I can drive myself home from the hospital. So that's true for me. So I'd be like, okay, I've got the right theme. So now the 2 questions on end of it, again, is it more than one word? Is it sort of a phrase or something unique? And could I objectively rate myself on it? Could I say like, I'm doing this or I'm not? Like in a company, that's got to be the test of core value. Could I put it on the performance review? So mine ended up being self-reliance. Can I objectively rate myself on it? Like, am I doing a good job of like controlling what I can control and these things? Yes or no? So it sort of meets all those tests. So if you go through mine, if you go on long-term orientation, again, also meets all those tests. It's a phrase. I can judge myself on it. The opposite of it, people who are like, oh, dude, I freaking made $1 million on the crypto bullshit token yesterday. It just makes my like that doesn't sound very useful, like for the world. And so that's the opposite. And again, could I make a decision on it? And you start to identify, like for me, as I was still running my agency, after COVID, I was always the guy, I had a great like president number 2 who would become the CEO. It was sort of the vision traction thing. And I was always working on the next year of our business. And he ran the current year. I worked on the next year. And this worked really well because I like figuring out what's around the corner, hence my find a better way goal. And after COVID, and we had our board meetings, it was like everything was chaos back and forth. I mean, I'll tell you this in the restaurant business, but we couldn't even plan like more than 3 months ahead. And so for me, living in triage mode is not fun. Like, and I could actually recognize that I'm really frustrated because like I cannot. Right now, I can't. No one gives a shit about the long term. Like it's like, what's going on? Yeah, right. Are we going to be here in 3 months? Right. And so I am forced into the short term. I am forced into all the stuff that I don't like doing. And so, yes, I have to do it. And we all have to be out of alignment with our values, like at little times. But like you can recognize, like this is not my desired state.
Do these so? The core values, how do they impact your like day-to-day life as a husband and a father?
So interesting. On the family side, I went and I rethought about my business. I thought about myself, particularly like health, and I've had like a couple health scares that kept reprioritizing that for me and making it more clear of like why it was on the list. But the father thing was interesting because one of the things that I gave up, so I was a very ADD, didn't like, my learning never happened in a classroom, which I didn't realize until much later. Like, oh, I love to learn. I just was super bored with what everyone was teaching me. Like, I'd learn stuff. So like back to school night, I'd go every year for my kids and my wife. I'd sit there in this little tiny chair. I would pretend to pay attention. I would go to the next class and I'm like, I know this is supposed to be a good parent, but like, I stopped going. My wife liked it. I'm like, you go. I am good with my kids around those core value things, around ropes courses, and let's go work on a project together. And it's about getting better and self-reliance or your health. Like I kind of gave myself permission to stop doing the checkbox things as a dad that I didn't. So I never went to another. I was so much happier not going to these teachers' nights. Like my wife likes meeting the teachers, and I'm sitting there in class in that 15 minutes of listening to the same presentation, and I'm like, I'm not even in the room. Like I'm not paying attention. So I thought about it, and when I think about family, when I think about goals, all of my goals are really set to my values. I actually thought I was a good goal setter, and I realized I wasn't because I would pick 1-year goals, I would hit them, I would pat myself on the back, great job, and then I'd be like, these are kind of all incongruous. Like what I really need is like 5 or 10-year goals that kind of align to my values, and I'd say, look, this is really aligned to what I want. And so when I get there, I'll be happy. And then that becomes my 3-year goal, my 1-year goal, and I sort of work backwards so that the things a lot of people climb a mountain, climb a goal, and realize like, oh, like wrong mountain. That's like the worst feeling and the view. Or I really want they tell me family is a goal, and I tell them it can't be a goal, it can be a priority. I mean, a value, it can't be a priority. And they like want this vacation house. Like everyone, when we do this goal setting exercise at work, everyone in theory wants like a beach or a mountain house, right? And like, okay, so why do you want it? Be really honest with yourself. Why do you want it? Is it a trophy for your achievement? Or is it a place for your family to sort of gather or otherwise? Like if you could be super honest with yourself, because I think for more people, it's a trophy of achievement. Because if it really is a place for your family and to bring everyone together in community, then you really don't want to lose your family and be divorced in chasing this house, right?
That, by the way, we have to put a highlight on that. I really want to hear your opinion on that because of where we are in the world right now. That, I think, is major and massive.
Yeah. That and the other thing in the world right now is we are intensely, and younger kids, intensely tribal. And what a tribe, falling for tribalism is you don't have any anchor or values. Like this team wants you and you join that team. And some of the stuff that people are supporting is so incongruous with who they say they are, which means that they have totally no sense of what they value. They have lost. I actually think it's the missing
because it's this side or that side.
For a lot, it's this side or that side. But you just were out, at a thing saying love all people, and now you're at a hate rally for these people. Like that it can't make sense to you, and you must be living with this incongruity, and it must be really frustrating. Like figure out, like right now you're afraid to say no to this team and that team, and these teams move really quickly. I think think about politics, they just say the indefensible. Values cost you something. Like at the end of the day, real value, you get no credit when your values or your boat and the stream are going in the same direction. You're like, look, I'm living my values and everyone's doing the same thing. Who gets a lot of credit? Jason Fried and David Heinemeier Hansson from Basecamp. Because in 2022, in the peak of political activism at work, and these are guys who have personal values of fairness and getting along and doing the opposite. They never raised venture money. They were the first remote work company. They were making tons of money with 30 people. They didn't care that they were bigger, like all of the things. And politics starts creeping into their workplace and on their Slack channels or whatever. And they're like, we don't want this. We'd rather quit than have a company, because we think it actually makes people uncomfortable and things that they say that they don't mean. So one day they go, and this is before Elon Musk bought Twitter, and Twitter was used a lot as sort of the cancel vehicle at the time. So they go and they look, we are no more politics at work. Like we're going to build great software, and you can be political, and we can tell you what to do, but we're just not on the company channels. We're not doing it at work. Twitter went after them, trying to cancel the company. You guys will be on the wrong side of history. They offered, if people didn't like that, they'd give them a package. 30% of the company left, and and they're like, are we going to survive? But they were like, we would rather not survive than do something that we really don't believe in. 2 weeks later, there's a lot of chirping and tweeting. There's not really any impact on their business. Suddenly, resumes start pouring in. For people that don't want politics at work, and that probably from both sides of the political aisle, but who don't want this in their workplace. 4 years later, Basecamp is record profits. Everyone's happy. Employees are engaged. People are calling them and being like, dude, we were so wrong. We jumped into this and it's a mess and our business is a mess. And so usually it's the right decision in the long term, but it usually has a cost in the short term.
So I think a few things that I want to touch on. One is I think it makes an enormous amount of sense for anybody now listening that is either about to launch a business or about to go into partnership with someone, whether it's a relationship romantic or relationship business. It would be worth the exercise of trying to understand each other's core values and maybe taking 100%. The exercise, right?
And if they're like this, I'd be really worried. You can if these are like magnets, if you have a 1 point of friction where you're a live for the short term and the other person's a think of the long road, you can work around that. If you have 3 or 4, that's hard.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. Before I opened up my first business, I said to my partner Dan, I said, hey dude, I think it would be great if you and I took a real trip together. Let's just go on a 5-day trip. And let's make it hard so that we have to kind of fight to get through the trip, right? Figure out a way.
When you see people's true stripes.
Yeah. And so I said, let's go hike the presidential peaks in New Hampshire and Rhode Island. Maine and New Hampshire. And it was July, so I was thinking, it'll be warm, it'll be hard, but it'll be warm, maybe some rain. So we got there, and it was torrential downpour, sideways raining the whole trip, and it was freezing temperatures. And we were ill prepared for it. Although, I mean, we had good gear, but not that kind of gear. And before we got going, I said, you know, Dan, and this is my child, like we grew up together, right? Now, of course, you're best friends. You open up a business together.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. So I said to him, I go, Dan, really at the end of this all, like, what is your ultimate goal? And he didn't flinch for a second. I want to be a billionaire. And I was like, and he was like, what's yours? I was like, I want to be married, house upstate, couple dogs, couple of kids, super comfortable.
Build community around food or something
like
that.
I just was like, I just want to be super comfortable, married, kid, you know. And now, to be fair, this was 2010, I was married already. So I was married, you know, my wife was kind of at the height of her career. So, you know, we weren't having kids at that point, but like, I was young, I was married, and I kind of knew that was the trajectory. Dan, fast and furious, hardcore chef, like he was like, I want to be a billionaire. And I should have known, right? Like a guy who wants to be a billionaire and a guy who just wants to be super stoked and comfortable.
That won't make him happy either.
What?
And that will make, being a billionaire won't necessarily make him happy.
Well, but the truth is that he probably, if you asked him today, so he's changed a lot, and so we built this business together. It was crazy successful. He and I ended up exploding, and I sold a bunch of my equity at the company, and he and I took 4 years off of talking to each other. It was terrible. It was gut-wrenching. It was horrible. I lost my best friend. A business that could have been an insane business. Now in 2019, I showed up at his door in LA, and I was like, dude, I love you. Like, let's just end this. It's ridiculous. And so we've been best friends, you know, kind of ever since then. Story. Which is lucky.
But you know who else was obsessed with being a billionaire? It's interesting. Was Elizabeth Holmes. It's all she ever talked about was being a billionaire, right? And so that became her. This is not your friend, but think about it, that became her orienting star. And when her technology didn't work, it was like, well, this is my goal. This is. You're not going to derail me, so I'm going to lie and we're going to cheat, and this is what we're going to do.
Right. Yeah. But yes, totally. So, but I guess the what I'm trying to say is that I do think that a great first step for anyone looking to launch a business, even with like a C-suite or a high-level executive within the organization or something like that, it would be worth, because I do think it would be worth everybody sort of understand core values and on a personal level, because I do think that no matter what you say, like, oh yeah, separate, you know, church and state, like at the end of the day,
you will see where you're going to fight and argue. You will see where, like, look, they don't have to match, but they kind of need to be in harmony. If they're polar opposites, you got a problem. But it also, when you fight, it should tell you those things. I think back to the big three. I think people miss this in a relationship. My wife and I are very different.
So
different hobbies, different interests. She reads no nonfiction. I read no fiction. But around the big things around our family, we're always on the same page. Around our kid, like we never had a real. We're not like. And I didn't understand that in my 20s and 30s. I think people look to these superficial things of like, do we have the same activities or whatever, versus like, are we on the same page about the big things? And look, the one on that big three people, and I think this will resonate with you, they forget about, I think the most maybe, is community, because that matters a lot. If health has become important, if you have a health scare, if you stop drinking, you should not live in Newcastle, like in England, where they go to the bar at 3 p.m. because you're either gonna go and drink and you don't want to, or you're gonna go and pretend to be enjoying it. You need to move to Park City where everyone is out and running about all this. So if you're someone who really believes in and there's a fake community in this book, and you believe in dialogue and you're a real central, you like to hear opinions, and you live in a town where it's like you are on this team or that team, like that's not the right environment for you. It's kind of exhausting to be in a community that doesn't reflect what you want.
Well, okay, let's talk about like Ray Dalio, right? Like, so someone like Ray Dalio, he was very, very clear, right? Like, it is going to be hell working here. You are going, and if you don't enjoy hell, leave. Like, he basically says, and I know someone who worked for him for a long time, and she doesn't seem like the person that enjoyed being in hell. But her hell was actually her happy place. Like, she needed someone to be like, yo.
Right. There were attributes of that culture that matched things that she was looking. The best thing you can be is honest. You know who's good at this? Companies try to be everything to everyone, which sucks. I have 2 kids who've gone through colleges, and not that they're like, but like when you go to look at a college, I go to look at like, I have a kid who wants to go look at like a big city school like Michigan, right? It's not pretending to be Bates or Colby. It's like, here's our value prop. Here's the kid who loves it here. And by the way, Colby and Bates have a totally different proposition. And both of the people probably love their school, and they'd probably hate the other school. So there's something she loved about that. She's something with an environment that was truly meritocracy, or there's some that was high pay. Like there was something that what he calls hell she was drawn to, but more leaders just need to be like, here's who I am, here's where we are. We are not, again, what we are thinking, what we are saying, and think about how great life would be if what you thought, and this is a Gandhi quote, he says in the context of happiness, but if what you thought, what you said, and what you did were all aligned. Like I look at that from a value standpoint. Like if you're actually thinking something, you're saying it, and you're doing it, you are aligned from a values standpoint.
Well, I just think that the craziest concept to actually understand is that one person's hell is another person's happy place.
Have you ever done this exercise at work where people list the stuff they hate doing and love doing, and they just assume that everyone hates the same thing, and then they find all these things that they can trade? Like, I hate washing, someone hates, I'm like, I always take washing dishes at someone's house. I actually find it quiet and therapeutic, and people are always like, please let me, I'm like, actually, I like it, let me wash the dishes. Like, it's just how life works.
But it's just so crazy, right? That it's a very, very it is a basic 101 concept. One person's hell is another person's happiness, and like the secret sauce, I think, in relationships in general, obviously, is communication, right? Like, you gotta work. This is what we're talking about here, right? This is what we're talking about.
And say what you mean and mean what you say, and then let the person determine whether that's something that they would like to be part of, right?
Well, I think it's and like you turn all the cards up, right? You turn all the cards up from the get-go, and then when something starts to feel a little hairy, a little itchy, a little painful, you like turn the cards back up, and you say, well, no, look, here's the thing. I think one of the hardest things, and by the way, I am 100% an absolute culprit of this. It's hard in the heat of the moment to put yourself, even if you know that his or her happiness is your hell. Yeah. Like, my wife loves doing the laundry and vacuuming. Like, she finds joy in that.
It's probably quiet, it's solid, right?
It's therapeutic for her. Not that, like, it's just what she actually enjoys doing.
Yeah. Maybe she hates the dishes, right?
She hates the dishes. I love the dishes. I absolutely love the dishes. So, like, that's like a very, very, like, minimal example, but I think that being able to pause, take a breath, put yourself in the other person's shoes for a minute. Yeah. Knowing, and that's impossible if you don't understand what grinds their gears or drives the ship. Right.
Yeah, my wife and I have this. So part of I've done a lot with the why framework too, and I think it overlaps with values. So I have a better way orientation, and she has a right way orientation. And these are very dangerous sometimes. Like the guy who teaches this told a story where they were planning their 10th anniversary, and the right way person spent 3 weeks laying out all the plans. Funny because we're planning our 25th trip, laying out all the plans and doing everything. And they get on the trip, and the better way person every day was like, well, could we move the reservation, or could we do it early? And he's like, they came back kind of almost divorced. So we know this about each other, and we use the words. She will be like, I've planned out the weekend. Please don't make it better. Like, I know this is what you do, but I need you not to do it right now. So, and I will be like, look, there's no right or wrong to this decision that you're driving your stuff over. Like, just pick pizza or Chinese food. Like, it's not gonna make a difference. Or I'll be like, you are really frustrated about this because you're not sure which way is right. And like, I get that, but don't take it out on me. So we're not, to what you were saying, it's not she is not going to change me. I am not going to change her. But those moments of realization of like, hey, this is a real different orientation that each of us have. And you could all invent context. This is one of these issues where it clashes. And like I can take a step back and understand where it comes from.
Is it possible, or have you experienced, or have you witnessed, or have you helped someone potentially change a deep-rooted core value?
It's a really good point, and someone have asked me. I think most of them are pretty hard-baked. I think that ones that appear later on come from probably later life form. Look, if you lose a kid or a partner or something, like, it may change your entire orientation. But I don't think it's about changing the core. So either something becomes a higher priority in your stack and they have a little higher, or I don't think the goal isn't to change it. The goal is to back to that trust example. After 30 years of learning how to sort things and trust and having that serve you really well, and you are not, unless you, look, you know that, like, unless someone, they can change if they want to go through deep, conscious change, but I don't think it's about changing. I think it's about, I have awareness of this now. I'm going to pay attention to this now. Like, I am throwing this person, maybe this person can be trusted and I'm just like jumping at it a little too early, because the goal isn't to change who you are, right? It's to not have a strength become a weakness. And I think that strengths overused become weaknesses.
Do you though believe, because there are people, and I think you're a product of your environment in some
sure.
many cases, right? So somebody's environment, specifically in their childhood, was that of like pain and suffering and abuse and pulling the wool over someone's eyes just to like survive, right? Yeah. Like that obviously manifests later on in life for sure. So that someone maybe they're not a bad person, they've come through a lot, but like they have this deep rooted thing where it's like, hey man, like if I see an opening, like I'm getting in there, and they don't like it. They don't like it.
But I think a lot of times what they actually, the pain develops the opposite rather than the same. And obviously we know about the cycle of violence and stuff. I think there's behavior and there's psychotic behavior and tendencies that we have. But if you actually go to the value, so someone who grew up, let's say in a household where they found, just extreme, they found out their dad was living like a double life, right? Like authenticity, like rather than being someone that lived a double life and maybe they would, like being authentic is probably something that they are now overcompensating for. And maybe they're this super authentic person and it actually, I have a friend who says that purpose and pain lie very close to each other. And I think like we got to respect that there's some amazing stuff that comes out of bad stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
Like
you're looking at one. That
situation where someone's like, look, I am going to go out and drive authenticity in the world. Or, there's a story in the book about, this kid who grew up a single kid of a mom who worked 2 jobs, and she was in all these after school programs and she was really lonely, and so she went on to develop like a world-renowned after school program, and like her mom did the best she could. It didn't change the reality that she was lonely, but she used that to go solve that problem for a lot of other people. So yes, are there people who are going to repeat the cycle of violence? Yes, but I think more not when it comes down to actually the value. People tend to go the other way, or something that they're trying to plug the hole for. And it's kind of again, if you don't do it too much, it's great to be trusting, right? It's a good thing to be a trusting person. But sorting the entire world binary into a trust can also cause problems for you.
2 things. One, I didn't know that I had this until I actually listened to Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. And he says in that book, he wrote, said, whatever, in that book, he's the kind of person that trusts you 100% out the gate.
Yeah.
And it's your job to keep it.
Yeah.
There's other people.
And he's telling people that.
Yeah. There's the opposite of that trust no one, and you have to earn it.
Right.
and it's so interesting because I do come from a really, really funky upbringing. I trust 99% of the people out the gate.
Do you get burned for that a lot?
Yeah. Well, look, it's hard not to be somewhat judgmental, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, if somebody's going to walk into the room, with like their pants around their ass and like, one shoe on, I'm not going to like be like, yo, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
there's
like,
early warning signs. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like in many cases, most cases, when it comes to friendship or, I do my best when, we're in a partner situation where, my wife's friends with somebody, they're, like you kind of got to be putting that, so I try my best to like just give it there and like it's their role to like, I kind of put the onus on them to keep it. And in business, in friendship, like I do that, right? Like I'm 100% on.
See, I think you have a core value. There's a couple of things you've said. You have to tell me your 4 one-word ones, but I think you have the rest. I think you have a core value of like benefit of the doubt. And again, we could spend a lot of
1,000% yes.
And if we looked into where that came from, I bet there's some interesting stuff. But then you have to be clear to people. Look, I am benefit of the doubt, but like, break that. And like, again, as you said before, I gave you the benefit of the doubt. I told you the rules. I told you what you need to do, and you didn't do it, right?
And so, that is also a big issue for me because I am a benefit of the doubt guy. But if you cross that,
and I bet the problem for you is there were some people weren't clear about the rules or weren't clear about the stuff, and you think they're violating that principle, and they're like, I think
I need to do this process with you. But the one other thing that I did want to mention, damn, what was it? It was. Oh God, it was so. This has been such a fun conversation for me.
But let's just go back to that way of thinking. With that sort of wording, benefit of the doubt, versus whatever your one-word thing was, if you are thinking about that in situations, thinking about a decision, that is a phrase that covers all 4 of those things. You know what it is. You can judge yourself on it. Like I think if you like be curious in the next week, follow up with me, and you're like, oh, actually, I had 3 or 4 situations where like, benefit of the doubt. I was like, that's it's more helpful than something like choices or judgment or trust or something like that.
Totally. Yeah, I'm gonna like what I've always like a little bit like a little note, little sticky note that I've been putting on the right side of my brain recently is just turning the volume up on the awareness barometer just a little bit, right? Like when I hear something, when I see something, when I experience something, it's not if I open up a book and it says on the first page that this book is going to change my life, like I'm like, okay.
But that's actually part of benefit of the doubt if you think about it, where what I'm hearing you say is it's not something you automatically grant. You need enough information to award it, and then when you award it, it's like a marker and it's in place.
And I feel like because I was just going to say before you said that there is a little bit of a hurdle.
Yeah.
Before I grant the benefit of the doubt.
Correct.
100%.
Right. So you're not throwing it around.
I'm not like, yes, right. But once
you feel really crappy if you've done that little research, done it, and then it's violated.
Yes. Yeah. And it's so hard for me to come back to it.
Right.
It's so hard for me to. It's so hard. And my wife hates that about me. She hates that about me. I'm also I want to do it better. I'm a better than, more than a right then.
Yeah.
And
it's exhausting. Better way.
Yeah, better way.
For you, for other people, it's a constant.
Yeah, it's tough.
Often pleased, never satisfied is the.
Can't like if we're traveling.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to like if you're in Naples, like I'm not going to the pizzeria. I'm going to the best pizza in the world.
Yeah.
And we are going to find it. And she hates that. hates it. She's like, can't we just have the pizza? We're in Naples. It's the right thing to do. You have the pizza in Naples. And I'm like, yeah, but there's
I'm going there shortly, so tell me if you found it.
I have. There's Da Michele and Di Matteo. Da Michele and Di Matteo, those are the two.
Try a slice from each.
Slice from each. And they are different, but they're bomb. You got it. Are you going to Naples? Where else are you going?
Yeah, we're going for our anniversary trip.
Amazing.
The one we're trying not to get divorced on for my story before.
I forgot what that second one, but dude, this was so much fun, and I can't wait to finish that book because obviously there's going to be a big reveal. I'm assuming there's something really great at the end of the book.
There's some changes in his life at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it was sad for me to see sort of how excited he was in the beginning of getting that gig and getting the promotion and working so well with his boss.
It was you. That was some job you had, right?
It just felt so good. I was feeling
You remember
so
being 20
good.
and before you learned about how crappy most cultures were? Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like, it was so relatable. I was just like, yes, because it's like nice to be able to see a smart person like showing up and like having a mentor like that they love, and then crashing and burning when the guy shows up that is just the wrong, Anyway, I can't wait to get through the rest of the book, and literally this was such a fun combo. I try to include some habits in here, but the way this flowed, I just think like you're an expert in core values, and you're an incredible author, and you've done a lot. I mean, you do a lot of things. So I think, anybody that is listening to, watching, whatever they're doing, definitely. Oh, the book comes out in October, right? Yeah,
October 14th.
Okay.
And
you can pre-buy it on.
You can pre-buy it, and if you go, it's on every site. But if you go to compass-within.com, there's a form. Just you pre-buy it and put in the order receipt, and we'll send you the course, which is normally like $100, and the course will walk you through it all when it launches. So buy the book, get the course if you pre-order it.
Cool. And people can follow Robert Glazer. Like, where do you spend most of your time?
RobertGlazer.com. Most of my time is on Substack. I've got a Substack called Friday Forward, which is actually my keystone habit. If you had answered that question, where I started this little newsletter almost 500 weeks ago, and just doing that every week has definitely been like a keystone habit for me. It improved kind of other habits.
You know what I love about that is that, so I've been writing a newsletter to the Creatures of Habit community for the last 172 weeks.
Yeah.
And so I've got 100 and I try never to make it more than a page.
Yeah.
But I probably have about close to 200 pages now.
Yeah.
And that is ultimately going to be transcribed into my book.
It's your book. Awesome.
Yeah.
So RobertGlazer.com is the book, the podcast, the Friday Forward newsletter. I'd be happy to hear from anyone. And you're going to send me the form. We're going to solve your core values, and you'll share it with the community.
Thank you so much for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
Super fun. Super inspiring convo. I know that you all got as much as I did. I mean, when I'm sitting here and I'm like so engaged, I like can't even hold on to the question that I have. It's just like, I know that is buzzing through your headphones right now, or you're potentially watching this on YouTube or in your car, or on a walk on a Saturday morning, which would be awesome. I ask for one thing from you all when it comes to the rent for listening to the podcast. Share it with a friend. That's it. It's the only rent I ask you to pay. I don't do ads on this thing. I don't stop. This is the Creatures of Habit Podcast. We talk about really awesome habits that people might have, but we also bring on experts to talk about really interesting topics that they've spent a good portion of their life really digging into. And it was so much fun getting to sit down with Robert to talk about this core value thing. He spent a lot of his time obviously focused on this and really uncovering and unearthing some things that you probably think about or have thought about and potentially stuffed under the rug. This would be a good time to think about potentially bringing up that term that you typically hear in corporate offices about core values, bringing it into your life. I know I'm going to do it. I'm going to take another stab at the core value thing, maybe elaborate and elevate my 4 singular words that a lot of people think about when they think of core values. So share the podcast with a friend, share it with your family, send it to your mom, your dad, your uncle, your brother, your cousin, grandma probably would appreciate it. Send it to an enemy. Bury the hatchet with this one. This could be a good Bury the Hatchet podcast. This would actually bring a smile to most people's faces. So, and if you're feeling super duper generous, give us a 5-star rating, write a review. It really does help the podcast grow. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Until the next one, y'all. Peace.